Hello and welcome to another glorious read. I am your host, Aspen Sage. Let's get into it. First off, I hope everybody had a fantastic week. The weather's been a little crazy. I know I say that every time I have a podcast, but this summer has been weird because either it's really hot and muggy and almost pushing 90 to 100, or it's been very, very cold, like you need a sweatshirt or a sweater, and down to like the 60s. Or it's just completely downpouring rain. And speaking of rain, I feel bad for all those people in Texas with the flash flooding. My heart goes out to them for the natural disaster that hit there. On that, I hope everybody has a fantastic week. I know we got our project going and it's coming out wonderful. And I got to take a trip to the bookstore. I did end up stopping at Barnes & Noble's and I got a copy of Lights Out and Caught Up because they are one of my two favorite top reads. And I'm excited because I also hear that The Court of Thorns and Roses, if you haven't got the news yet, there's supposed to be a 6th book coming out. I am currently listening to the 5th book now and I can't wait. The Court of Silver Flames, I believe it's called, is fantastic so far. I love it because this book is more based on Nesta and Cassian. I'm not too far into it, so I'm not going to go into it that deep. Of course, I've been creating other things and writing my own stories. I think my book 3 has pretty much hit its wall where I want it to be. I say that every time until I write further on in the storylines or in the series, and then I bounce back. So book 3 is completed, and now I am going to my 4th book of the series, my Celestial and Demigod series. Of course, once I get book 1 and book 2 back out, then I will let book 3 be released. If I could, and I had the ability to, I would just release the whole entire series at once. So I don't have when is the next book coming out? Not to mention that I have also a lot of ideas on back burners popping up going, hey, you want to write this? And I go, no, it's not your time yet. Doesn't mean I'm not going to write down the idea though. So I do keep thinking, and keep creating and keep writing. So I also did a lot of that this week, thankfully. I also did a lot of creating. I made a couple more of my little sun catchers. One actually being a book club one. It says, welcome to the book club. It's very cute. It's very dainty looking. I'm really torn because I actually want to kind of keep it, but I'm like, no, I can't keep the things I make. I also made something similar to something I've seen online, and it's actually like a little book street light kind of thing, or a little street sign. That I designed and 3D printed myself. So that one's sitting up on my shelf. I don't know if it's going to be a seller item. I haven't decided yet, especially for the book community. I think it's cute. But where it's 3D printed, I'm like, it would look so much better as a actual wood product, maybe. Unfortunately, I don't have a laser cutter or engraver, so I am unable to do that. And I am just currently have my 3D printer unless I feel like cutting these things by hand. What I am not against, because I do enjoy woodworking and wood burning, what I actually excel at too. And speaking of wood burning, I also created little wood burned their wooden beads. I caught the item off Pinterest there, because I am a Pinterest person. I love Pinterest. To make wall scented or car hangers, centers, whatever you want to. Basically, it's wooden beads that are not finished and they are soaked in fragrance oil and then put on a string and hung in your car. So it's going to be a quick little thing that I thought was a cool idea, but I have made one so far, and it's the moon phases, because why not? And other than that, it's just been writing and reading, everybody, and I hope you've been doing the same. Of course, We still got an adult sometimes and do adult responsibilities, what's not fun, but as long as everybody has their own little world they can escape through, whether it's listening to a podcast, music, for us audiobook listeners, I like to do that once in a while, especially when I'm cooking dinner for my family. If as long as I say, all right, everybody, I'm cooking dinner, I have the earbuds in, unless you need me, don't talk to me. Because then I can get really engrossed in the story and I don't have somebody talking to me while I'm trying to listen. And unfortunately, my family hasn't got the cues yet that when I give them a certain look means I don't want to be talked to, shut up, I'm listening to a book. It's the same way when I'm reading, because I feel like every time they see me have a book in my hand or my Kindle, they have to automatically need something from me. And I have to look at them and I'm like, okay, I will wait until like 11 or 12 o'clock at night to read. And then, of course, by then, I get a few sentences in and I'm exhausted. But with that being said, I will get into this somewhat book review this week. I can't say it's a full one because I'm still reading the story, but I feel like this book is longer than most of the books that I've been reading. And it goes along with the books from the following week. It is part of that Supernatural Ferngully series that I was reading that I love. This one's Hunted by in the Shadows. By, again, Mary Devlin and Anna Kensley, with our main characters Sylvia, John, and Cliff. In the beginning of the book, it started with Hunt, but I have a lot more questions in this book that I hope get answered. I feel like also this book is run a lot longer. I feel like the chapters are a lot longer than previous books I read. Not against it. Some of my chapters I write go way beyond, or they're just, I feel, too short. Regardless, the story flows beautifully. So basically, the story starts with a vampire nest of also Cliff getting bitten, Sylvia basically becoming stronger in her as a fairy, and her and John have basically been sneaking off to the Spectrum Realm to get a little spicy. Of course, it's not really very descriptive. So, definitely so far in this book, just in general, it kind of seemed there is very little spice. What's very, I like smutty books, so I can't really say it's a bad thing. It's just, it's an enemies to lovers, but it's a very slow burn enemies to lovers, I think. Like, you don't really get any description other than, hey, a hand touched here, or this felt nice, or this looked right. It wasn't very descriptive, as if our dark romance readers or books know exactly what the characters are up to and what situation they've got themselves into. Regardless, it does not take away from the story. It's beautiful. So Sylvia and John have definitely become a thing. Cliff is like, you guys are weird, but they come to a point where they have to go to an actually hunter's outpost to get equipment, more silver bullets, stuff like that, because if not, they're going to run out of ammunition and stuff, and it wouldn't be a good situation for them if they run into a monster. Of course, they run into also a problem with the car. There's a wreck. They basically wreck in a swamp, and Sylvia is kind of concerned because she has a problem with thunderstorms, and they were driving through a thunderstorm. But at the swamp that they wrecked, she kept feeling that there's a power. The power being almost fey-like. She says it's a glamour, and she can't understand it. So the car wrecks. They end up in this town, in this church, and they find out that there is some fairy folklore in that town that they're in. They run into an old hunter girlfriend of Cliff's, and her girlfriend, who runs the junkyard, and they decide that they're all gonna go to the hunter's outpost together. Of course, John is very against Sylvia even getting close to it. So, Gwen is the girlfriend, that Cliff has had a run-in with, and so she tells him that the outpost is not what it used to be. And they're like, what do you mean? She goes, so and so doesn't run it anymore. This new kid's running it, and they know exactly who it is. They've dealt with him before, they've had problems with him. So they go to the outpost. They figure out that hunters are no longer hunting, they're more trapping creatures and using them to fight in a pit, kind of like a coliseum thing. And they're selling off either blood or body parts or whole creatures to a buyer. This Rhett guy is basically running the Hunters Association now as a business, a shady, dark trading business. And it comes to a point where something happens. Sylvia hears a scream. She thinks it's the boy. She goes in to rescue him. She gets caught. She's forced to fight. And then it turns into basically a free-for-all. Like, I don't want to over-explain it because I want you to read the books because it's good. It's definitely makes you question some characters' ethics in the book a little bit. Especially when John has to somehow get Sylvia out without having all the hunters on them. And of course, that doesn't help anyway because everybody turns against them. So they're basically on the run now. Also throughout the book, or at least where I've got to, I think Sylvia's a little more homesick. She misses her the Willow that she came from. She misses her mother, her sister. She keeps going to the Spectrum Realm to, like, see them a little bit. But my questions, again, I haven't finished the book. I'm only halfway through, so I can't give too much. And like I said, it's a little longer of a book, I feel like, for me. Either that or I'm just having a really slow time reading it because I've been doing so much other stuff with it, and I'm just so exhausted at the end of the day. But regardless, the book is, like, worth eating up. One of the questions I have is Sylvia or John gonna change forms? Like, I'm wondering if John's gonna shrink to fairy form, or is she gonna shrink up to human form? Is she gonna find a crystal that has all the power she needs? Is she more powerful, like an elder fairy, than people believe her to be? And in the beginning of the book, there was a human male with scars across his face that her mother knew, and her mother and her sister went with them. And I'm wondering if she's going to make it all the way back to the other fairy clan that her mother told her about. So I'm wondering if this male that her mother knew, who is a human being, was actually her father. Because her father used to play with gemstones before he disappeared. He disintegrated and stuff like that. At least that's what Sylvia keeps thinking. Or says in the book, like he just disappeared. Like, poof. So I'm wondering if this male that her mother is talking to, this human male, is actually her father. So it makes me question if Sylvia is going to decide to become human. Again, it's not the end of the book, so I don't know. And it keeps me going, okay, what's going to happen? And then my part of me goes, okay, if she turns human, is her, Cliff, and John going to keep hunting together? Or are they all going to settle down? Like, is Cliff going to go back with Gwen? Or is he going to go be a solo hunter? Is John and Sylvia going to settle down? Or are they just going to keep hunting? Like, I'm wondering if this is going to go from a duo to a trio. I have so many questions that I need answers, and I can only answer them if I read. So, like, it's just so much. And I'm like, oh. But like I also said, I'm reading, I'm doing other stuff, I'm doing my crafts, I'm making sure my books are written. I want my stories to be just as beautiful as every other author. And I saw a beautiful quote today that says basically, nobody's going to want my stories because they're not any good. And it says, only stories that aren't told fail. So that is beautiful, I think. I might have said the quote completely wrong, but I saw it and I loved it. And basically, it's basically saying that if you don't write and release your work, even if you don't think it's good, it could fail. if you don't release it. You know, you don't know. And it's a 50-50 for me, because I'm like, where my first two books were not very good, and I had to pull them back to rewrite them. Honest first time author mistake, especially for an indie author who does everything by themselves. It was a mistake, and I learned from it, but I'm making my stories better. And of course, I have my very close friends who are constantly encouraging me to keep going. Um, they are basically, some of them are the inspiration for my characters. Their attitudes, how they look, and I love it. Including one of my friends who passed away years ago. She was definitely my person for one of my characters that will be coming in book 8. So like, I have my series written. I just need to tweak it, add a little more detail, a little bit more personality, I think it is, to my characters. Like, you can pretty much get their personalities, but at the same time, you're like, they have to have little nicks. Like in my second book, Leo has a tendency of rapping his knuckles on something, especially when he's thinking or troubled. He's constantly rapping his knuckles on stuff. Paige, his guardian, her hair and her wings and her eyes will change color depending on her mood or thought. So it's one of those things that I try to add little bits. Aries in the first book, where she is the fire elemental, when she gets mad, you see a lot of sparks fly in her eyes. They'll always refer to in the book, you can see the haze, or you can see the sparks floating in her eyes. Basically, she's burning within, and if you keep that temper going, you are going to get the wrath. Her partner, Daniel, her guardian, he's more the, I don't know how to put it. He's the strong, silent type, but he's not very silent, I guess, is the best way to put it. I don't know. That's probably a really bad analogy, but regardless, he's always around her. You can always hear him growling, especially when he's angry. That could be to his lupine blood. So he's always, I guess I gave him more wolfish tendencies, even in his human form. So you constantly hear him growl, or you constantly hear him, like, his eyes will flicker to his beast side. So it's a paranormal romance, urban fantasy kind of thing. So it's in today's world, but yet people from the past in our present, I guess, is the best way. But you also have your magical creatures. So I'm excited. Regardless, I will finish Shadows in the Dark. Hopefully soon, because like I said, I'm just past the 55% mark, kind of ish. So far, it's still a solid 4 stars for me. I want my questions answered, and definitely pick up the first book, because the first book's good too. I don't know. I really wanted more spice in this book, but I can't expect that in every book, because not every author, or in this case, pair of authors, want to write like that. They don't always want the hot, smutty, touchy, erotic things in their books. It doesn't feature their stories. And that is 100% respectful. I got that 100%. Would I mind if this book had it? No, I would not mind at all. I think it would have fed more to the story, especially when they're in the spectrum realm. But it does not hurt my feelings that it's not there either, because the story itself is good. And especially if you have watched Supernatural or Fern Gully, you kind of understand. So like I said, I wonder if, like, Sylvia is more like an elder fairy, like she's an older, ancient power kind of thing. She calls her a nomadic self anyway. Regardless, I know I jump around. I'm sorry. It's just sometimes when I get overexcited, I just can't stop the rambling. But regardless, I will finish this book. Thank you, everybody, for listening in, and I hope you have a fantastic week coming up. Do something nice for yourself. Be happy. Do something relaxing, and don't be disrespectful to yourself. You have so much potential. It doesn't matter what you accelerate in, even if it's, drawing little doodles, making music. My family has a thing for diamond art. Anything it is, keep accelerating. Thank you for listening in, and I'll catch you next time. Bye bye.